So now I'm recording, and so I'll just do that again real quick. So I'm just choosing a square format since my output is going to be an animated GIF instead of a HD video. So I'm going to look at the presets and go to social, and I already selected this, so now it's popping up at the top. But I just want to go with something square. 600 by 600 is fine. I would probably do like 512 by 512 or 1024 by 1024, something like that. But I'm just going to stick with this preset. And I already did this, but remember to change the frame rate to 24 and then click create. And so now we have a new canvas and we can start working. And whoops, I'm going to hit Control 2 so we can see the whole canvas. So Control 2 is going to zoom the canvas to fit into the screen I have, or into the area I have. And I'm just going to start with a little guide. So I always like to use guides a lot as I'm working. I'm going to make just like a little circle loop animation, so it's like literally a loop. So we'll see how that looks on the screen. So I'm going to call this my circle guide. It says I can't use special characters. That's fine. It's going to add that little underscore. I can tell that the computer is wiped because all of the things that I've already done, like say what my presets are not working anymore, but that's okay. And remember to turn this into a guide. So before I even draw anything, I want to make sure that this isn't going to be in my output. So to turn this into a guide, I just right click on the layer over here and I click guide, and it's going to turn into this like little T-square thing. And so now I know this isn't going to show up on my output. I'm going to just draw. I'm going to change the color to like something like that so I can see stuff over it. And I'll increase the stroke size just a little bit. And I'm just going to draw a circle kind of in the middle here. And I'm going to use that as my guide. So it's something just really, really simple. And so I'm gonna make like a probably 2 or 3 second animation. So I'm gonna move up to 48 on my timeline. Okay, it's not letting me move the timeline. Can I click here? Okay, so I'll move up here. I'll hit F5 to add a frame, but not a keyframe. So that will make my guide 48 frames long. If I need to make it longer later, I can always do that. So I've got my circle guide. And then I like to keep things super organized, so I'm also going to do some timing stuff before I get started animating. And I could put that on my guide here, but I'm just going to make a new layer, just so if I want to see one thing and not the other, I can very easily toggle them on and off. So I'm going to go with my timing here, and I'm going to right-click and say guide here. And I'm just going to very quickly go over a couple different ways that we can do timing. So this is a little bit of a review. But one way I can do timing is just to think of my frames like this. And think about this is frame 1. This is frame 48. And then, is that me?
I think so.
I'll just turn the volume down because I don't need sound. Okay. I hope my computer isn't about to like restart or something like that, but okay. Okay, so if we want to work on timing, I'm going to basically do like a little loop around this circle. But remember, if we want to have like a natural feeling, something that's kind of interesting, we're going to want more frames in some places and less frames in others to kind of slow and speed our animation. So I'm going to do like a really simple slow in, and then slow in, and then it's going to get fast, and then a slow out. So I want more frames here, and then it's going to slow down, and then I'm going to have some more frames there. So that's one way of doing my timing, is kind of like creating a timeline and then mapping out the type of animation that I want. Another way to do it, so I'm actually going to hide this timing and add another one. I'll call this timing 2. And I'm going to make this a guide. So the other way I can do it is just to draw it directly onto my shape. So I'm going to say like, this is where I'm starting. So I'll just make this clear that this is the starting point, and then I'm going to draw a bunch of frames here and then I'll kind of stretch out the frames so it'll get faster. And then I'll get like the fastest maybe right here, and then I'll start to slow down again and have a bunch of frames like that. I probably need a couple more frames in there. So I can draw my timing directly onto the circle guide so that I can have a quick reference for that. And again, the reason I like to do something like this is now I have a few different ways I can look at this just by toggling these guides on and off. So I can have my circle guide by itself without any timing. I can bring my different timing in there. So that makes it a little bit easier for me to see everything that's going on. So I'm going to turn this timing back on and start to create my simple animation. And the idea here is I want to make a loop. And so to make the loop work, what I'm going to do to start, I've got my brush. I'm going to change the color to black. So this will be the color that I'm using for the actual animation. I'm going to make the stroke a little bit bigger. I'll try like 6. And I'm going to draw just a circle. Later, I'm going to say like this is like a fly or something. But for now, I'm just going to draw a circle. And the way that I can make sure this animation loops perfectly is before I animate anything else, I'm just going to come and take that keyframe that I just drew here. Oops, I need to make a new layer before I do that. Okay, here's my actual loop animation. So I'll draw that circle again. So before I do anything else, I'm just going to drag this keyframe and make a copy of it on this last frame here. Maybe I need to hold Shift when I do that. My setup on my Mac is a little bit different. Okay, there we go. So I need to hold Alt actually to do that. I could also just do this. I could go here and say copy, and then go here and say paste. That would work as well. So now when I preview, there's no animation. It's just one, it's exactly the same at the beginning and the end. That's the easiest way to create a seamless loop, is that we know we have the same frame at the beginning and the end. As we do our pose to pose in between, we can, we can start to build out that loop, knowing that we'll eventually get back to where we started. If I want this to be 2 frames, I could drag this one back a little bit. If I'm doing if I'm animating by 2s or 3s, I can just drag that back a little bit, so I already have that 2 frames at the end. Okay, so now I'm just going to go like directly to the middle. So I'll go to like frame 24, and now I can start to draw my in-betweens. So what I can do here is I'll go back to that frame 24. I'll hit F7 to create a new keyframe. And now I may want to see, right now I actually don't really need this, but eventually I'm going to want my onion skin. And I'm going to be using the onion skin a lot as I create this, so I can see where I started and how far I'm going. So I know in frame 24, I'm going to be up here. I'm going to kind of like stretch out a little bit here, so it's like getting kind of like longer. So I'm going to exaggerate this a little bit, this action. So I'm just going to stretch out my ball a little bit like that. Okay, so now my animation is just, let's turn on loop. Okay, so now my animation is just bouncing back and forth between those 2 frames, but we're starting to get the structure. And now I just kind of go back and forth doing our breakdowns or in between. So I can go to like 12 and just hit F7. So now, see, when I hit F7, I've got my original frame here and this guy over here. And I should probably start counting, like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 frames here. So the middle is like probably right there. Of course, I can always like move these around a little bit, but it's gonna be like okay, if there's 11, then I want to go to like 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's actually gonna be like right here. You can always move these around later, so you don't have to be quite as precise, but I'm just gonna draw my ball here. And I want to be careful that I'm not like, I did make the volume actually a lot bigger up there, but I'm not going to go back and fix that right now. I'm just going to stretch it out just a tiny bit, but I'm going to mostly keep it the same. So I'm just going to stretch it out just a little bit. It's probably a little too small, something like that. Okay, so then I could keep in-betweening, or I can switch to this side if I want to. So I'm going to go in the middle here. between 24 and 48 is going to be something like 36, I think. That doesn't really look visually right, so I'll just pull this back a little bit and put a new keyframe here. And then now, another thing that I might want to do with my onion skin is now I can see like multiple things, so it's a little confusing. So if I just grab this and make it a little smaller, now I know I'm drawing in between here and here. And since I'm doing timing again, I'm going to skip ahead a bunch of these, so I want to be about halfway of these frames rather than halfway across the circle. So I'll probably be like at this one. So I'll just kind of draw that same ball here, and then I can take a look at that. So that kind of looks balanced, so we can start to do some more breakdowns. And now my onion skin is going to get a little smaller. I'll do one right here. I think right there probably looks pretty good. So I'll hit F7 there. And so we just want to see basically the, the frame before and the frame after. So the frame before is this one. Oops. Frame after is this one. So we want to go in the middle. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the middle is right here. And we're just going to start to stretch it out just a little bit there. And let's stay on this side. I'm going to go over here to frame 6. I'll hit F7 here. So I'm going to be in the middle of these two, which is right here. That's a little off. I'm going to just redo that like that. Okay, I don't need to be too precious about it right now. I can always fix it later. Okay, so now we've got the beginning of our loop. Okay, let's do a couple over here. So let's go like right there. And I'll hit F7. And I just want to see these two. So my onion skin is kind of getting smaller as I'm doing these. And I'm going in between this one and this one. So that's like, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like in between here. So I'll just do this right there. And then I'll go to this side. I think like right there looks good. And now I can't quite see that last frame, so I'll just put this up here. Okay, so I'm in the middle of these two, so that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one here. Okay, so I'm getting my pose to pose. It's starting to look like a pretty decent loop. And I'm going to just do a few more in-betweens, but then I'm going to...
looks like you're trying to do a collider animation.
So let's just do a few more in-betweens here. So I'll just do one right here. And then I'm going to move up to like here. Somehow I ended up with like a weird number of frames, but I'll fix that in a second. So let's make one right here. That's a little too big. Okay, and then I'll skip ahead again to here. So I'm just hitting F7 to add a new keyframe. I'm going in between these two guys. So I could do like right there. I might want to hit both of those, but whatever. I'm just gonna, that's too much. I'm gonna stretch it out just a little bit right there. And then we'll go in between here. And this one I'll put like right there. Okay. And now let's go up to here. Yeah, somehow I ended up with a weird number of frames, but that's okay. I'll fix this later. Let's put one in the middle here. So I'll put this one like right here. And let's go to here. And now I can see too many. I don't know which one is which, so I'm just going to shrink my onion skin a little bit. And that one's pretty easy. That one's like right there. And I'm going to go ahead to here. And now we're slowing down and not stretch and unstretching a little bit. And let's add one more here. Okay, so let's watch that. I might fix it up a little bit, but we're getting a pretty smooth motion. My balls are kind of not the right size the whole time, so it looks a little bit goofy. So I'll probably clean that up later during workshop time, but I don't need to do that right now. I'm going to do a little preview, and so that looks pretty good. What I'm going to do eventually is go back, and for certain frames, if I want more or less, what I can do is go to the frame where I want to add and hit F5 to add an extra frame. So in parts where I just have 2, I might just go through and do that. And then some parts, this one's 4, I probably want one less. I can hit Shift F5, and that'll just quickly take out that frame. So that's a quick way that I can just go kind of even out these different parts. And if I don't have exactly 48 at the end, that's okay. So let's see how that looks. Okay, that's a little smoother, and then if I add some more in-betweens, I'll have a much better animation. Okay. So that's pretty much what I want to show for now, just getting the basic seamless loop going. So it's not super complicated, but the main thing is we want to have it be seamless. So we don't know where this animation begins and ends. And when we add more to it in the second part, we'll make it kind of more interesting. We'll have more stuff going on. But for now, we just want this basic loop that's seamless. So once we have that, I'm just going to add one more thing before we go to workshop time. So we talked about secondary action and embellishments and stuff like that. So I'm going to make another kind of layer. And I'm going to actually turn off my guides for a second. So I just see my main animation. So I'll make another layer here. And I'll call this, I'm going to add just some like goofy little, like, it's almost like action lines or something like that as little embellishment. So it doesn't really matter if this makes a ton of sense, but what I want to kind of do is at certain points in my loop animation, I'm going to make the onion skin much smaller. I'm just going to do some like little action lines. So as it speeds up, maybe like around here, I'll do like some little lines going like this. So now I'm using the 2 arrow keys to advance a little bit, and then I just hit F7, and I'm just going to draw another little line like that. Hit F7. I'm not really making these look that good, but I'm just kind of trying to go quickly. Something like that, just a little embellishment. And so now we can see what that looks like. So we're kind of like, it's like the loop is pushing some wind on the side. So we can kind of embellish the animation a little bit. So I would definitely make those lines look better if I had some time, but let's add a couple more over here. So the ball is going like really fast over here. So let's put another keyframe here, and I'll do some like much more embellished kind of lines over here. So this is my really fast, whoops, I need to hit F7, version of the Disney water effect, where I don't have as much time. But so we're just kind of embellishing the speed of the ball a little bit. And we could do a few more of those. I think actually a few more lines would be useful there. But that's basically the idea. When you're making something that has like a natural component to it, like water or fire or something like that, we might want to add some of these little straight ahead components so that we get more of this kind of like effect of the main motion. That's kind of the idea of the secondary action. Okay, so I'm going to save this now. I don't have a folder anymore because the computer got wiped. So I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to make a new folder. And so I'll call this ANI 260. And then I'm going to make, I'll save in here as loop and click save. Okay, so when we come back, we'll do some workshop time. When we come back, I'm going to go over how to turn this little loop into a symbol so that we can like reuse it and put it in different places. And then we're going to add a little bit more to the animation if we have some time. So for now, just work on trying to create the seamless loop. You can start with something simple like the ball, and then you could draw something else on top of it. So once I've got this ball, what I could do is turn that into a guide and then start drawing like a fly or a butterfly or something more interesting as the actual subject rather than just the ball. But it's up to you guys for this one. You don't have to do something specific. You can create your own subject for this project.